Good evening. I'd like to call this Thursday, March 30th, 2023 meeting of the Finance Committee to order. Tonight will be in a hybrid meeting, so we'll have participation both in the present room and also in hybrid via Zoom. Tonight we'll be following the published and posted agenda, and the first item on the agenda this evening is the approval of minutes from our March 23rd, 2023 meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review them?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And Pam, I know there were a couple of quick little edits that were sent. You got those?
I didn't, but I am sure I will.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. That's 6 in favor, 1 absent. Oh, John's just joined.
Oh, good.
We have a full board. All right. Moving right along, I have a period of public comment, but there is no public in the room or in the Zoom room. So we're going to move right along to a review, discussion, and vote on the recommendations for the fiscal year 24 budget and Springtown meeting warrant articles. All right. Who wants to be the reader of this? Kathy, you up for it?
I can definitely do it if the information is on the screen, but I don't have a packet in front of me.
Okay.
Do you want me to, hold on.
Let me.
Unless someone else would like to do it.
Now's your opportunity. Kathy's had it solidly for the last, 5 years?
I can read, I can read them, yeah.
Let's Cindy.
Okay,
Am I
great, thank you.
Am I reading them like verbatim?
So usually, typically, how we,
Is that a laughable question?
no, well, no, it's
I was gonna
because.
say-
Let him tell you.
Because Kathy has sometimes read an entire article, and we've gone, that's ridiculous, so you don't need to read all that. So
Okay.
what we'll say is, the shorter ones certainly read the article. We have a list here that Paul has provided us of the amounts that are going to be associated with the article.
Yep.
And so what I would say is, when you're making a motion, I make a motion to approve article, and then read the shorter article as a value amount, you'll say in the amount of, and then list the
Okay,
amount.
all right, so I
If
can
it's
just,
a longer article, it's as presented.
okay, okay,
Okay?
winging it, sure.
It's a good time to learn new things and give
That's
Kathy
it.
I got
a
a new
break.
skill going on here.
There you
It's a
go.
resume builder, watch out.
All right. Article 1 is report of town officers and committees, and so therefore there'll be no vote on that. Article 2, it says right here it's to be announced or to determine.
To be determined, yeah.
Okay.
Darlene's still working with department heads.
She is, okay. So we may have to reserve voting on that one because we don't have amounts to actually vote for an amendment. Well, as I understand it, Paul, there may be a special town meeting coming before us, so we may have a meeting sometime in April. We'll talk about that later in the agenda, prior to town meeting, end of April. And so that night, if we have the numbers at that point, we would take a subsequent vote on that particular article. So Article 3 would be
Same thing.
the same thing. So
Okay.
we still don't have an approved and ratified.
We have agreements, but they haven't been fully ratified.
Okay, all right. So we'll reserve voting on Article 3. This may make for a much easier evening. Article 4 is the first one then that we have funding available for. And so Article 4, I'll take a motion.
What do I say?
I'll move that we vote to approve. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, no, that's okay. I
But
move,
just like that.
okay. I move that we vote to approve to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds a sum of money to the funds, to fund the town's fiscal year 2024 assessment to Neshoba Valley Technical School or act in relation to. The amount is $3,859,704.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Discussion. This amount actually went down this year, and they adjusted further when the numbers came out from the governor. The amount that they've been out and seeking grant funding has been laudable, and the information they provided us in the last few years, especially since Dr. Pigeon has been at the helm, has been vastly improved.
Agreed.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll take a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, 7 in favor. No nays or abstentions. Article 5.
What's the phrase?
I move to.
You make a motion.
I move, I make a motion to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds a sum of money as may be required to defray charges for the operating of the Chelmsford Public Schools for the fiscal year period July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024, or act in relation thereto. The amount of money is $70,700,000.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion?
This is the amount that the town manager has recommended.
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
Now, this does not include the governor, if the governor's budget,
No.
This is the school voted budget by the school committee and my recommended amount. The amount, though, the revenue side from chapter 70 will fall into the eventual tax levy, but that doesn't affect the operating budget.
okay.
Yeah, this is just expense.
And it's just as a reminder, as we do every year, this is an up or down vote on the amount of money going in. We don't have any budget line autonomy. They have budget line autonomy. We have no control over that particular budgetary part of that particular budget. All right. Hearing no further discussion. Oh, sorry, Kathy?
I'm just gonna say, did she get a second on the motion?
Yes, it was.
Anita did.
Okay.
I wouldn't have entered discussion without it.
I thought I caught you once in a lifetime.
Well, no, that's not true. All right. Hearing no further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, 7 in favor. Article 6.
I make a motion to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds such sums of money as may be required to defray charges of the town's general government operations for the fiscal year period July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024, in the amount of $76,627,545.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
I'd just like to take just a second to note for the record, in case anybody is watching this meeting and they think that, we have no interest in having a discussion about this topic. I would just like to remind the general public that we have already had presentations that cover all of the details that are included in this budget. So we have already seen the presentations, and we have asked our questions of the department heads and the town manager. So I'd just like to get that on the record.
Good point.
Thank you, Sam. And that'll be reiterated in the letter as well, that we had multiple nights of review. We had our own liaisons that went out and reviewed as well. And so this is, although it looks like we're quickly voting on a large budget item, there's been a lot of discussion and review that's gone into that. So thank you for highlighting. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No nays or abstentions, 7 in favor. We'll move on to Article 7.
I make a motion to recommend approval of Article 6, 7, excuse me, 7, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds such sums of money to be used as reserve fund at the discretion of the Finance Committee for fiscal year 2024 as provided in General Law, Chapter 40, Section 6, or Act in relation to. The amount of money is $400,000.
Second.
All right. Discussion?
Same review, same as we do every year, just about.
And for how many years, does anybody remember how many years the amount has been 400? It's been a while, been several years.
It's
Right.
Just before me.
It's far below the percentage that could be associated with this. It's you can base it up to a percentage of the actual operating budget, and we've held steady at 400,000. Some years we've used all of it. The majority of the years, it's been returned as free cash at the end of the fiscal year. But as a reminder to people who may be wondering, it's not a slush fund. It is a fund that's reserved in order to prevent the need to have a special town meeting outside of regular town meeting time to address unforeseen circumstances that may have to be handled during the operating year. So it's a way to actually have a cost savings and address issues that pop up that we review and vote upon. All right.
You know, one thing that might be interesting is a look back. If we did, I'm not saying now, but at some time we did a little chart saying, you know, how much was used in like the last few years to give an indication to people that it is actually sometimes utilized and sometimes it's not needed. I mean, I don't know if anyone thinks
good
that would
idea.
be interesting information or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you've just volunteered yourself there, Kathy.
Okie dokie.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
No nays or abstentions, 7 in favor. Article 8.
I make a motion to recommend approval of Article 8 to see if the town will vote to A, appropriate a certain sum of money for the following capital projects.
As
As
presented.
presented. I had to change turn the page, as presented,
In the amount.
in the amount of $4,387,207.
Second.
Discussion? Thank you again, David, for serving on the committee this year. I know for many years Kathy filled that role as well. It's a important role, and quite frankly, I wish there was more to transfer over to the projects that want to get done, that need to get done, that are presented and can't be funded every year. Capital is so important to the town and to the maintenance of the town, and so I see nothing here that's frivolous or frugal. It is something that has to be. A lot of things have to be addressed in order to make sure that we're maintaining things for the future.
Yeah, and just a comment, the process they use is very thorough. And there are a lot of, when I say a lot, there are some changes that are made. In other words, it just doesn't get presented and approved. Some numbers get moved, some get halved, some projects don't make it.
Now, typically, a much higher number is presented as a starting
Absolutely.
point, and then what we have here is after the process you've just described. Yeah.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
No nays or abstentions, 7 in favor. Article 9.
I make a motion to recommend approval of Article 9 to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds and/or borrow a certain sum of money for fiscal year 2024 budget to operate the sewer enterprise or act in relation to. The amount of the funds, $4,900,382.
Do a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
7 in favor, no nays or abstentions. Article 10.
I make a motion to recommend approval of Article 10 to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds and/or borrow a sum of money to upgrade the Mill End Avenue Sewer Pump Station or act in relation to. Amount of money is $542,028.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor? Aye. 7 in favor, no nays or abstentions. Article 11.
I make a motion to recommend approval of Article 11 to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds and/or borrow a certain sum of money for the fiscal year 2024 budget to operate the stormwater management enterprise or act in relation to. Amount of money is $1,563,013.
Second.
Discussion?
Jim, why don't you take a minute just to explain
Explain
to
the operating-
the audience to what is
Yeah, of
an
course.
enterprise fund and how it operates?
Certainly. So an enterprise fund is a encapsulated fund which addresses that particular project, whether it be, for instance, as we're voting on this one, the stormwater management enterprise. We just voted on the sewer enterprise fund. We'll have the forum and the golf course and the PEG access coming up. These enterprise funds act as a microcosm, their own budget. They have operating and expenses in their particular enterprise fund, and they maintain all income expenses through that particular fund, separate from the main operating budget.
Good.
And so again, we've met with these departments, we've had these discussions. The ones such as stormwater and sewer are under the Department of Public Works. I know, Sam, you met with PEG Access.
Yes.
Golf course and the forum are part of the main discussion with the main budget. So these have all been reviewed and discussed, and we've seen the sheets for them as well. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
That's 7 in favor, no nays or abstentions. Article 12.
I make a motion to recommend approval of Article 12 to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds and/or borrow a certain sum of money for fiscal year 2024 budget to operate the Forum Ice Rink Enterprise or act in relation to. The amount of the funds is $65,000.
Second.
Discussion? I know that they're working now that it's under a new, I believe, there's a new contract been executed, Paul?
Yes,
It's a 5-year contract?
yes.
Okay. And so I know they're working to get the boosters in there to work on any improvements they might have. I know there's a push to have the shop open and to have the concessions run during events there. That's a busy facility. It's being used a lot, including my daughter does skating there. So one of my daughters is skating there. So $65,000 is their estimated operating budget for that facility, and we don't expect there to be any. Perfect. Okay. And hopefully the chillers, we have no more issues with with knock on wood. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
7 in favor, no nays or abstentions. Article 13.
I make a motion to recommend approval of Article 13 to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, and/or borrow a certain sum of money for the fiscal year 2024 budget to operate the cable television, public educational, and governmental access enterprise, or act in relation thereto. The amount of money is $580,630.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
I think I need to beat you by half a second.
It's okay.
Discussion. I know, Sam, you met, and the budget went slightly down.
It actually is less than it was last year. It shouldn't be a problem.
And that's related to the continued review of fees coming in from
Yes.
cable?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
That's 7 in favor, no nays or abstentions. Article 14.
I make a motion to recommend approval of Article 14 to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds and/or borrow a certain sum of money for the fiscal year 2024 budget to operate the golf course enterprise or act in relation thereto. The amount of funds is $30,000.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 That's 7 in favor, no nays or abstentions. Article 15.
I make a motion to recommend approval of Article 15 as presented.
Second.
Discussion. And just as we discussed the enterprise funds, these revolving funds have to be voted on each year. These remaining ones that have to be voted on every year in a separate vote. Hearing no further discussion, I'll call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 7 in favor, no nays or abstentions. Article 16.
I make a motion to recommend approval of Article 16 to see if the town will vote to transfer a certain sum of money from the sale of graves and lots to the Cemetery Improvement and Development Fund, or act in relation thereto. Amount of money is $35,000.
Second.
Discussion?
Just a well-run organization,
Yes,
very well-run.
yes.
Hearing no further discussion, I'll call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
That's 7 in favor, no nays or abstentions. Article 17.
I make a motion to recommend approval of Article 17 to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds a sum of money to fund the Community Action Program established under Article 12 of the warrant for the April 29th, 1996 Spring Annual Town Meeting to provide matching funds to community improvement projects undertaken by individuals and/or organizations within the town of Chelmsford, or act in relation thereto. The amount of money is $10,000.
Second.
Discussion? Paul, do you know if last year they were approached by, or if they were approached by the full amount or anything close to it?
No, they didn't utilize the full amount.
Okay.
They're still sort of rebuilding back up.
Rebuilding it back up, people getting out there, having people know it. I know for a long time it was used by both Eagle Scouts and Golden Arrow Scouts. So it's a great resource to have available to the community, especially for projects like those. Hearing no further discussion, I'll call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 7 in favor, no nays or abstentions. Article 18.
I make a motion to recommend approval of Article 18 as presented.
Second.
Discussion? It's been quite some time since these values have been updated. A decade or more?
Yeah, we were originally part of the state statutory minimum, and now we just can't cover the fees that we pay for the CO of Waste Measures to do the work. So NIMCOG, who provides that, requested that we adopt a fee schedule. So
Thank-
it just covers our costs, like a revolving fund.
Perfect, thank you. All right, hearing no further discussion, I'll call a vote. All those in favor? Aye. 7 in favor, no nays or abstentions. Article 19.
I make a motion to recommend approval of Article 19 as presented.
Second, sorry.
All right, discussion. So here's where we get into the two zoning bylaw amendments we had a presentation on just last week. This one has to do with the use, in the use table. I see no issues with what they're looking to, and to address, especially with addressing the portion that was unintentionally taken off the books at the last adjustment of this particular article.
Right.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's 7 in favor. No nays or abstentions. Article 20.
I make a motion to recommend approval of Article 20 as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? I know we had some back and forth on this particular one. I don't know if anyone has any comments or discussion. All right. Hearing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Article 20.
Oh, I'm an A, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
that's 6 in favor, 1 against. Thank you.
6-1, okay.
Okay. Article 21.
I make a motion to recommend approval of Article 21 to see if the town will vote to enact Chapter 25 of the Town of Chelmsford, Massachusetts General Bylaws as specialized energy code for the purpose of regulating the design and construction of building for the effective use of energy and reduction of greenhouse gas emissions pursuant to the entirety of 225 CMR 22 and 23, including appendices RC and CC, including further additions, amendments, or modifications thereto, with an effective date of January 1st, 2024, a copy of which is on file with the town clerk or act in relation thereto.
Do a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
I have a question
Sure.
on this one. And you think I would remember this since I saw the presentation twice. This is for all new construction and renovations, or just new construction?
And renovations, and they were unclear when they presented as to what they determined would be a renovation. It says substantial renovation, which I find to be a little vague. There were a lot of open,
Yes.
in my mind, a lot of open
Yes.
questions that didn't have a succinct answer, such as what triggers for renovation, the various sub-parts of it, whether or not National Grid felt that they had the ability to keep up with this particular thing, what the anticipated costs were, and the requirements were for renovation. I understand we have a target of net zero in 2050, 2050. But this isn't, from my understanding, I don't think there was one, or there may have been a couple, potentially other towns that were considering this even. This hasn't even been adopted yet, although it just came out, I believe, in December as an option.
I believe Concord and Acton are
Are
considering it.
considering it, yeah. But I'm just concerned about jumping on the forefront of this and it having consequences for people who want to renovate their property, where they would have to, especially in a house that is not. So if you have gas and you're putting gas in, you'd be required to run all of the electric as well. So you have to run electric for the stove, you have to run electric for
Correct.
for everything else. You have to put a heat pump in. You have to provide for solar. And if you can't provide for solar, it wasn't clear as to what would be the disqualification or the qualification not to have to install solar. A lot of the older houses in this town, if they were to be renovated and it triggered on an addition, are not built for a heat pump transfer. They don't have the ductwork, and putting ductwork in an old house is not an easy task, and it will increase the amount of
Very
cost
expensive.
exponentially. Additionally, having to put an extra panel in if you have to handle for solar, and then any costs of the roof regarding any solar work. I have too many questions that just weren't readily answered, and I'm just concerned about this causing issues for people in town monetarily.
Yeah, there were also some conclusions, of which I can't remember exactly one, but there were some conclusions that there was no backup material where you could read and understand how that conclusion came out to be. I mean, this is, this could potentially, I don't know how you'd enforce this.
I think many of those conclusions, Dave, were actually assumptions.
Right. Thank you.
Okay.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
That they were just assumptions, and I don't think you make a major decision like this that way.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I'm concerned.
Yeah, my biggest concern was around the renovation piece of it. It's, again, I'm there with new construction, because, running electrical, at the end of the day, when you're running,
If
if you're already doing it, it's
Yeah.
really not that big of an extra cost. to run it, right? Like you're talking, material, so it's incrementally not that much more. And I think that would protect the new homeowners, the new construction, right? Bring up the quality and give them people options. But we just have so many like older
Yeah.
I've got an older house and I'm trying to put in 2 zones. And I can tell you,
It's not cheap.
it's not cheap.
No. So my additional, that actually brought up another point, and I asked about the cost of electric provision, and the thought was, that it was, again, it was an assumption, not a conclusion, that the offset would be handled by the solar that's being introduced to the new property. But the electric prices, as anyone knows who's received a bill, have not been low, and they show no signs of going down. And on Monday night, going forward with a new contract, a new collaborative contract, the board decided that we're going to opt people into the middle ground, the 50% clean energy, which is a higher threshold and a more expensive
So
cost.
we're going to start off out of the gate with a contractual higher rate than we otherwise would have had the board elected for not to default to that option.
Exactly.
But people can opt out.
They can opt out, but the board had a very lengthy.
They can opt down, too.
Yeah, well, that's what exactly, but that was a very lengthy discussion at the select board meeting,
Yes.
very lengthy.
So hopefully people were watching the select board.
Yes, and the select people were very concerned about the fact that, in their opinion, most people are not reading the inserts in the mail and so forth. So they indicated that, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think their feeling was that they would like to see steps taken to conduct some sort of an education program to go along with the decision to automatically default to the mid-range.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
I think is very important considering I think that the correct estimation that people don't always check
Oh,
their
I
mailers.
agree.
And so
I
they'll
agree.
be 2 or 3 or 4 months down the road saying, why is this higher? And then find out, oh, there's an ability to opt down back to what I was previously using. And so, I mean, that falls into my concern about
Yes.
the electric running issues and jumping first into this particular option. We're already in the energy code that was adopted years ago, that we're addressing, we were, as a green community, and hitting those benchmarks that are already set. This is an additional thing we can opt into, and I don't think it's a decision we should be making at this time.
And the other thing, Jim, is that we can do this at any time. I mean, they can bring it
can
up
be
next
adopted
year,
later.
they can, whenever, okay? When things become things become clearer relative to the questions that you've asked. I have an additional concern, and I agree with everything you've said. I agree with everything you've all said about this. I have an additional concern, which maybe could fall into the category of philosophical. I have a concern about the mandate, okay? And I would, and I don't want to get into a philosophical discussion about global warming and climate change. That's not my intent. But I have a concern about mandating changes, which I believe really should be market-driven, and people should be able to make choices, okay, as to whether they want to upgrade their housing or their electrical service or whatever in response to whatever the market forces are that are driving costs and availability of energy sources. So I have that concern as well.
Well, I applaud the effort and intention. I just feel like this is a case where we don't really need to be first in line. Basically agreeing with everything that's been said before, so I'll be voting no. But again, I applaud their effort and their intentions.
Cambridge was first. That's all I can see in my search is that Cambridge has adopted it.
Cambridge has adopted it. I'm
Okay.
Shocked, I tell you.
Wow.
Shocked.
Trailblazers.
Newton might be next, but
And again, another town with a bunch of old houses. I mean,
Yes,
this whole-
that's
this
true.
area, this whole area, Concord, I mean, they're all full of the old houses.
It is, but with Cambridge, it's a different beast. The commercial base is very high.
Yes.
A large portion of the people that live there have the ability to handle these adjustments that are being made, or they live in a spot that the adjustment would not need to be made. I think it's a different beast when we talk about our town and the way it's
True.
structured versus how
Yes.
Cambridge is
Oh,
structured.
agreed,
Yeah.
agreed.
Right. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Aye?
Aye.
I'm a no.
All right, that's 0 in favor, 7 against. Article 22,
I make a motion to recommend approval of Article 22 as presented.
do you have a second?
Second.
Discussion? No, this is an annual article, and this is just the funding and the maintaining and the heading the debt service and things of that nature, so. Hearing no further discussion, I'll call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
That's 7 in favor, no nays or abstentions. Article 23.
I make a motion to recommend approval of Article 23 as presented. The amount of funds is $35,000.
Second.
Discussion? Just a recollection, Paul, I think this one has the one that has the, oh no, Shore Drive has the easement. I'm wondering if we have, no, we don't have a map for this. Where is this particular piece of land?
This was the one next to Meadowbrook, remember, it straddled along off of Wilson Lane.
And it connects, oh, yes,
Yep,
that's
yep.
right. All right. Okay. Thank you. Any further discussion? All right. Hearing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
7 in favor, no nays or abstentions. Article 24.
I make a motion to recommend approval of Article 24 to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer a certain sum of money from the Community Preservation Fund General Reserve for rehabilitation, restoration, and improvement of capital conservation lands which make the lands more functional for their intended conservational use and/or act in relation thereto. The amount of funds is $50,000.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
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 That's 7 in favor. You said aye, Kathy, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. 7 in favor, no nays or abstentions. Article 25.
I make a motion to recommend approval of Article 25 as presented.
Second.
Discussion? This is the easement. This is one of the ones that pops up when people are selling property or transferring property, and they find out the piece of a driveway they thought was on their property may not exactly be on their property.
Make sure you do a title search when you buy property, folks.
Or make sure when you're putting down a driveway after you
Right.
bought the property, you're putting it down in your own hand.
Yeah, right.
Because there is no adverse possession against the municipality. So, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's 7 in favor, no nays or abstentions. Article 26.
I make a motion to recommend approval of Article 26 to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer a certain sum of money from the Community Preservation Fund General Reserve to be expended by the town clerk for the preservation of the town's vital historical records or act in relation thereto. The amount of funds is $275,000.
Second.
Discussion? And this just continues a project. We saw this in the pictures of this one in the presentation. Although they are tax records, do we want to preserve
We
them?
we do, we do.
All right. Hearing no further discussion, I'll call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, no nays or abstentions, 7 in favor. Article 27.
I make a motion to recommend approval of Article 27 to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer a certain sum of money from the Community Preservation Fund General Reserve for the purchase and installation of new playground equipment at the Highland Playground, which is located off John Street, or act in relation thereto. The amount of money is $50,000.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion? This continues the few that we've had in the past, over the past couple of years from the CPC of updating and maintaining the playgrounds around town. So, and this is one that is, as we saw from the pictures, in need.
I mean, it was in need when my daughter played softball in next door, and she's 27 now, so.
Kathy, I think it was in need when I played soccer there.
Wasn't that just last year?
No. I'm coaching my daughter's team now.
Uh-oh.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 No nays or abstentions, 7 in favor. Article 28.
I make a motion to recommend approval of Article 28 to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer a certain sum of money from the Community Preservation Fund General Reserve for preservation of headstones at Forefathers Cemetery or act in relation thereto. The amount of funds is $8,000.
Second.
Discussion?
I mean, I think we're blessed to have such an interesting and, I mean, it's just like a great thing that the town of Chelmsford has this historical graveyard, and I think it's great to try to preserve them, and they seem to be in some rough shape.
Some of them knocked over, some of them broken in half,
Right.
and just from wear and weather. And it's I've seen the restoration process done, and it's a beautiful job that they do. And I think this will address something like 16 headstones. So that's I agree, Kathy. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's seven in favor, no nays or abstentions. Article 29.
I make a motion to recommend approval of Article 29 to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer a certain sum of money from the Community Preservation Fund General Reserve for creation of a walkway along Beaver Brook at 1 Billrica Road, 44 Central Square, or act in relation thereto. The amount of money is $47,250.
Do a second?
Second.
Discussion?
It's a long time in coming.
Yeah, and especially with the town owning the parking lot area in the back there, it would be a nice clean addition, especially when they do the duck races.
Yep.
It'd be a nice addition to that area. Hearing no further discussion, I'll call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 7 in favor, no nays or abstentions. Last but not least, Article 30.
I make a motion to recommend approval of Article 30 to see if the town will vote to appropriate and transfer a certain sum of money from the Community Preservation Fund General Reserve for the dismantling, transporting, and preservation of the School Street Freight House to the Garrison property located at 105 Garrison Road, or act in relation thereto. The amount of money is $50,000.
Second.
Discussion? I was surprised to hear that they reported that it had good bones.
Yes.
Given the view of the outside of the building. I was when Linda
Yes.
Prescott said that, I was shocked.
And that was a structural engineer that looked at that, Paul? Yeah, it was shocking, you're right.
Yeah. But, Garrison, she's right, the Garrison House does a great job with the facilities they have, and I'm glad to hear that they're both interested and willing to take this on and to.
Look, this money is
Rebuild this.
only to move it.
It is, but the Garrison House has taken on the renovation of it,
Taken
so
the
it's
renovation,
not the town. This is the money from the CPC to move it by, as they said, cover of night, and so we're not interrupting traffic, because that's. I think they're gonna have to. Well, I don't know. They're taking it down, so I don't think they're gonna. Yeah, they're not gonna have to move power lines or anything like that. So, yeah, I think it's great. Any
If
further
it
discussion?
weren't in the middle of the night, it would be interesting to watch them do it. But
Yeah.
Oh, it'll be interesting. Yeah.
I bet you there's going to be a lot of people lining the road.
They'll dismantle during the day. They are moving it during the day.
I think I'll pass on that.
Tell you what, Kathy, you can go out and watch and let us know how it is.
okay, yeah.
That's right.
All right. Hearing no further discussion, I'll call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's 7 in favor, no nays or abstentions. All right, moving right along in our,
I have one question, Mr. Chairman.
certainly.
Paul, could you tell us which articles are going to fall under the consent agenda?
Good question.
Yes.
Good answer.
Do I have that with me?
Sorry to put you on the spot.
That's all right. No, I do. I reviewed this with the moderator, John Curlin, and he intends to bring forth a consent agenda for Article 7, Finance Committee Reserve Fund, Articles 9, Sewer Enterprise Fund Operating Budget, Articles 11, Stormwater Management Enterprise Fund Operating Budget, Article 12, Forum Ice Rink Enterprise Operating Budget, Article 13, PEG Access Enterprise Operating Budget, Article 14, Golf Course Enterprise Operating Budget, Article 15, Annual Authorization of Departmental Revolving Funds, Article 16, Cemetery Improvement Development Fund, and Article 17, Community Action Program Fund. So 7, 9, 11 through 17.
Perfect.
9 articles.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I still think it's going to be 2 nights.
I agree.
I think so too.
Oh, it'll still be.
All right, so next on our agenda, we have review of the reporting schedule. So, as mentioned earlier, we have the two articles, the amending of the operating budget and the funding of the collective bargaining agreements that may come up in the next few weeks, in addition to what may be a special town meeting warrant article or two that may be presented to us. So keep your eyes on the email. I'll reach out as soon as possible. I'm sorry, Paul. Yeah.
Can't hear it, no.
Yeah.
Basically, I'd ask you to reserve the date of Thursday, April 13th, which is 2 weeks from tonight.
Okay.
Basically, what's going to happen is the select board will sign the warrant for the special town meeting on the Monday, the 10th. They'll also be acting to approve the collective bargaining agreements, that are ratified that night.
Okay.
So basically, I'll be able to provide for you in advance of the meeting for your traditional Thursday night meeting schedule, on, in this case, the 13th, all the information, including a signed special town meeting warrant, and the funding for the ratified contracts, as well as the adjustments for the current fiscal year budget. So we hope to have all that there, so that way everything is wrapped up by the 13th, 2 weeks in advance of the meeting. We have agreements with all of the town's collective bargaining units, with the exception of the firefighters union, and that there's a mediation session for that within 2 weeks, but I don't think that will, obviously that would be too late for town meeting, but that's where everything is at this point. For the special town meeting, there will be a couple of capital requests, I guess, for lack of anything. Very similar to last year, we need to bring forth the replacement of the boilers at an elementary school. This year it'll be the center school, so we're finalizing the numbers there. That I'll probably would fund from the reserve fund, because I think it's, it'll probably be somewhere around $150,000 or so. And then the other one that's more substantial that we'll have to borrow for is where it appears we're going to need additional appropriations for the McCarthy and the high school kitchen renovations. Somewhere around $500,000, I believe, is where we're still finalizing those numbers. So those will be the sort of two capital articles, just to give you early notice on. And then they said there's the article the select board discussed on last Monday night regarding to truck exclusion, vehicle weight limitations on Ledge Road, and then perhaps another article or so. But we're so again, if you could meet and hold 2 weeks from today, you should be able to get in, get out, and have everything. At least that gets the information out there. And the town meeting, special town meeting would take place on that Thursday, so it would be 2 weeks in advance. So the town meeting would schedule for the beginning of the night on Thursday, April 27th, which would be the second night of the spring annual town meeting. And I think the hope is that we can have everything completed by those 2 nights.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. So what we'll do is in the letter and then the book will indicate that the votes will be forthcoming, because we'll need to have our book out prior to that. I think the 10th is the final day to get everything to you, Pam, and to have everything finalized and off to the printers, if I'm remembering correctly. Am I?
Yeah, I don't have my glasses, so I can't. Let's see.
Because the 10th is 2 weeks prior to the town meeting. Right, we need it 2 weeks prior.
Well, technically, I thought it was one.
Technically, it's one.
Like,
under the charter.
It's, you know, if you wanted to hold the book till the 13th and vote on it and get it to the printer on the 14th,
My only
That's the only thing,
yeah,
that
my
we
only
have
concern
paper
about
books.
that, Pam, is
close.
that it's gonna cut it really close.
Yeah.
There'll be people complaining about it.
Yes.
so then-
And that probably won't have stuff ready for the manager's information session that which I believe you are holding one, correct, Paul?
Point.
That Wednesday prior to.
Wednesday?
Yeah. Okay, so let's still target the 10th to get the book out and
Okay.
finalized. So for the one vote against Article 20,
I will write it up.
thank you. And then, if anyone has anything in particular they want to say about a certain article, I'll note in particular 21, which we all voted not to support or recommend support of. If you can get those to me within the next week, and then I'll get that built into the letter so that we can put that together with the book. So Pam, usually before I had the letter over to her, we'll circulate the rest of the book, so take a look.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for the budget. I don't have the budget.
You will get that tomorrow.
Okay.
All right. So once Pam has the budget, she'll put together the book, and she'll circulate. So please keep an eye out for that. Take a look through, make sure the numbers match what we looked at previously. Any usually there aren't, but if there are any years like fiscal, sometimes it's a fiscal year 23 versus 24 that didn't get switched or something like that. Just take a look. Let us know. And then we'll plan on meeting on the 13th once that special town meeting warrant article is signed.
Good.
All right. Any public comment? Given that there's no public and there's no public in the Zoom room and there is no press in the, it has been for quite some time. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Before we do that, Mr. Chairman, I would just like to commend Cindy for the excellent job she did.
Yes, yes. I was remiss in not doing that, Sam. Thank you. As Kathy can tell you, it's a
Right.
order to bear, and she's done it for quite some time now. You did an admirable job.
And
Thank you.
I applaud your discretion when it came to the as-presented
As
article.
presented. I was not reading all those words.
Well done.
I
Thank you.
don't blame you at all. And
not
that's brought us to not even 7:30 yet, so
Okay.
It's a record.
that certainly helped. Yeah.
I'd also like to thank Paul for the help sheet.
Yes.
Yes.
Very
Thank you,
helpful.
Paul.
This is
Thank you.
excellent.
Things along.
Excellent. Thank you. Yes. Good. Yes.
All right. So now I will once again entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. See you on the
Night,
13th.
Kathy.